Hello guys, welcome to our video. We are from Group 3. We will present our material about genre and element of prose, fiction, and drama. Before we start, let us introduce ourselves. Start with me. My name is Azhimi Cahyadi, and my friend is.
My name is Andika Sangga.
My name is Aser Yodika.
My name is Muhamad.
Okay, we hope our video will interest and inspire you. Okay, enjoy the video. Okay, everyone. Uh, First, I will mention that our material that we will discuss about the definition, genre, and element of prose, fiction, and drama. The first, there is a prose. Prose is any communication, spoken or written, through the use of language, sentence, or statement without use the rhythm, rhyme, and meter, but with a proper grammatical structure. Prose is a most typical form of language, and it is derived from the Latin word prosa, which literally means straightforward. This means that anything you say or write in a prose presented in straightforward manners. Prose is made up of complete sentences which constitute paragraph in a narrative form. Prose reflects the pattern of everyday speech. However, in prose, the writer does not just present whatever they make sense or not. Words in a prose are arranged correct sentence and logical sequence for meaningful understanding of the intended communication. Prose is divided into two categories. There is a prose fiction and prose non-fiction. An example of prose writing is as a most human conversation, textbook, lectures, novel, short stories, fairy tales, newspaper articles, and essay. And the second, there is a fiction. Fiction is derived from the Latin word fictum, which means created. Fiction is a term used to denote anything, mainly stories or account, which is completely fictitious or imaginative. Abram explained that fiction is literally narrative, whatever it a prose or a verse, which is invented instead of being an account of event that actually happened. In a narrow sense, however, fictions denote only narrative that are written in a prose, and sometimes is used simply as a synonym for the novel. The important thing is that the story is not factual or real. It is just reflecting the reality or the factual thing into story. Some example of fiction text would include picture books, novels, and classic fairy tales, to name a few. Meanwhile, the definition of a non-fiction is a term for any writing created with the intention of relaying truth or information of actual events to the audience. This means that it is the opposite of fiction.
Prose fiction is an imaginary story that usually write down that someone's tell in a everyday natural and then using a natural language. Prose fiction is the narrative form of a story which is not factual or real. It is the result of author's imaginary. Fiction and narrative are words that distinguish prose fiction from any other form of a narrative or fictional. For example, drama is fiction but is presented in dialogue and not narrative. Prose fiction as a literary genre is made up of the short story, the novella, and the novel. The story in prose fiction is invited by the writer, but is presented in a realistic manner. Prose fiction present various individual matter, which is then will be imprinted by the reader. What the reader read in prose fiction are events, incidents, and the experience that affect other human beings. So it reflects and a connect in the factual reality of a man or someone. As a conclusion, prose fiction is a combination of two distinct words, prose and a fiction. It is an imaginary work that presented in a narrative form. Prose fiction is a literary genre that presents human experience to educate and entertain the readers. It tells a story that deals with cultural, social, and political issues in the world, but the characters not real human, but bare human traits and dispositions. Drama is a mode of fictional representation through dialogue and performance. It is the one of the literary genres, which is an imitation of some actions. Drama is also a type of a play written for a theater, for television, a radio, and a movie. In simple words, a drama is a composition in a verse or prose presenting in a story or pantomime or dialogue. It is content conflict of the characters, particularly the ones who perform in front of the audience on the stage. So the person who writes drama for a stage direction is known as a dramatist, or all known as a playwright. Drama is the specific mode of fiction represented in performance. The term comes from a Greek word meaning action, which is derived from the verb meaning to do or to act. The enactment of the drama in theater performed by actors on a stage before an audience presuppose collaborative modes of a production and a collective form of reception. The structure of dramatic uniques, unlike the form of the literature, is directly influenced by collaborative productions and collective reception.
C. Genres of prose fiction and drama. Genre originates from the French word meaning kind or types. As a literary device, genre refers to a form, class, or type of literary work. A. Genre of prose fiction. 1. Novel. The novel is a long prose essay that tells about human life and the surrounding community with the presence of character and highlighting the character of the character. The example of famous novel there are Harry Potter, Anna Karenina, To Kill a Mockingbird, The Great Gatsby, 100 Years of Solitude, Invisible Man, and each other. Number 2, novella. Novella is simply a term used for miniature or short novel. Its genres are characteristic of the novel and can fall into any of categories of the novel. The example of famous novella there are Animal Farm, The Metamorphosis, The Old Man and the Sea, The Stranger, A Christmas Carol, and each other. 3. Short story. Short story is a piece of prose fiction marked by relative shortness and density, organized into a plot and with some kind of denouement and the end. The example of famous short story there are Canterbury Tales, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, Matthew Falcon, The Nutcracker and the Mouse King, The Sandman, and each other. 4. Fairy tales. Fairy tales are short stories that involve fantasy elements and characters like gnomes, fairies, witches, and each other, who use magical power to accomplish good or evil. The example of fairy tale there are Cinderella, Elves and the Shoemaker, Frog Prince, Hansel and Gretel, Jack and the Beanstalk, Pinocchio, Sleeping Beauty, and each other. 5. Fable. A fable is a short piece of fiction that features animals in a role of protagonist and usually includes or
illustrate a moral. A fable can also have other inanimate object, mythical creature, or force of nature as main character. A tiger skinned horse, and revenge, a dog's greed, the mouse deer, tortoise and rabbit, lazy donkey, and each other. 6. Science fiction. Science fiction, often called sci-fi, is a genre of fiction literature whose content is imaginative but based in science. The example of science fiction there are A Trip to the Moon, Metropolis, 2001, A Space Odyssey, Planet of the Apes, Star Wars, and each other. B. Genre of drama. Number 1. Tragedy. Tragedy is a type of drama in which the protagonist or hero is brought down by his or her loss, murders, death, insanity, and pain are among the most common ideas and tragedies. Main characters usually have some kind of weakness or defect that causes their downfall. The example of tragedy there are Hamlet, Othello, Macbeth, Athena, The In-Between, Purple Hearts, West Side Story, Joker, and each other. Number 2, comedy. Comedy is a type of drama that aims to make the audience laugh. Its tone is light and it mostly has a happy ending. The classic conception of comedy came from the ancient Greek theater, where comedy first emerged as a form of drama. The example of comedy there are A Midsummer Night Dream, Through My Window, The Sea Beast, Happy Death Day, Bullet Train, Jungle Cruise, and each other. Number 3 is tragicomedy. Tragicomedy is a special kind of drama that combines the feature of tragedy and comedy. This, this means that such play may be sad but will have a happy ending, or it may be serious with some elements of humor emerging throughout the whole play. The example of tragicomedy there are The Merchant of Venice, BoJack Horseman, American Beauty, Forrest Gump, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Green Book, Donnie, and each other. And number 4 is melodrama. Melodrama is the last one of the 4 types of drama. It is a kind of drama in which everything is hyperbolized. Usually, themes depicted in melodramas are simple and without any unpredictable plot twist. The example of melodrama there are Still Life, Little Woman, Ammonite, The Power of the Dog, A Year and Whitley, Be With You, Tune In for Love, La La Land, and each other.
Element of prose fiction. Number 1. Character. A character is a participant in the story and is usually a person, but maybe any person, identity, or entity whose existence originates from fictional work or performance. Character may be several types. Protagonist, the driver of the action of story and trap responsibility for achieving the story. For example, a protagonist character is Mukide Luffy, Azumaki Naruto, and Son Goku. And for antagonist, the character that stand in opposition of the protagonist. For the example of antagonist character is Kaido, Madara, Raiza, Frieza, Megatron, Thanos, and etc. Supporter character, a character that play a part in the plot but is not major. For the example of supporting character is Uchiha Sasuke, Vegeta, Zoro, Zenos, Bumblebee, Ron Weasley, etc. Minor character, a character in a bit or cameo part. For the example of minor characters is Stanley in every Marvel movies, and some popular artists in popular movie, etc. Number 2. Plot. Plot is how the author arranges the event to develop the basic idea. It is the sequence of events in the story or play the plot is planned. Logical series of events having a beginning, middle, and the end. For the example of plot is Naruto who wants to recognition from villager of Konoha village who doesn't like Naruto because of the monster inside Naruto. So Naruto wants to prove himself and become Hokage of president of Konoha village. And the next example is Luffy who wants to make a new world of freedom, so he wants to rule the ocean with finding One Piece and become a pirate king. And the next is setting. Number 3. Setting. Time and location that a story takes place. There are multiple aspects of consider. Number 1. Place. Geographical location, where is the action of the story taking place. Number 2, time, historical period, time of the day, year, etc., where the story taking place. 3. Weather condition, it is rainy, sunny, stormy, etc. Special condition, what is the daily life of the characters like? Does the story contain local color? Number 5, mood of atmosphere, what feeling is created at the beginning of the story, cheerful or airy? Number 4, point of view characters, the characters from whose perspective the audience experience the story. There are several creations of POV. First person, story told by the protagonist or the character who interact closely with the protagonist or the characters. Speaker use the pronouns I, me, we. Second person, story told by a narrator who addresses the reader or some other assume you. Speaker use pronouns you, your, and yours. Example, you wake up to discover that you have been robbed of all your worldly professions. The third POV is a story told by a narrator who sees all the actions. Speaker use the pronouns he, she, it, they, his, hers, its, theirs. This person may be character in the story. Number 5 is theme. The central idea of work of fiction is the guiding concept of the central idea. The example of the theme in prose fiction is like ninja, pirates, magic, nature, god, hero, etc. B. Element of drama. Number 1, character. Characterization. How an actor uses body, voice, and talk to develop and portray a character. The example of character in drama is Wanjari of Love Revolution, that's actually my favorite drama, and Han Jun-ye of The Silent Hill, I don't know that, Seung Gi-hun of Squid Game, yeah, everybody know that, etc. Number 2, dialogue. The story of play is taken forward by means of dialogues. The story is narrated to the audience through the interaction between the play's characters, which in the form of dialogues. The example of dialogues in drama is love you in romance drama. Yes, in romance drama I love you. I will kill you in action drama. This house is haunted. That's example of the horror drama, etc. Number 3, conflict. The internal of the external struggle between opposing forces, ideas, or interests that creates dramatic tension. The example of conflict in drama is an antagonist, a player who tries to harm the main character on drama. Number 4, theme. The basic idea of the play, the idea, point of view, or perfection that binds together a work of art. The example of them is drama is school, city, kingdom, forest, etc.
Okay, that's all from our group. Thank you so much for your attention. We ended our presentation. Thank you.